Big Basket presents the RCB Podcast.
From being RCB's designated finisher to now putting the finishing touches on RCB's heavy hitters, we've seen many versions of Dinesh Karthik, and now he joins us on Big Basket presents the RCB Podcast, Bold and Beyond. Let's get chatting with DK.
DK is in the house. If you had a business card right now, like how many designations would be on it? Achievements on one line, designations, trophy on the center. Like, come on, you must have designed it since you are very into your brand now.
Well, let's just state straight away that there's a lot more designations than achievements. That list is longer. It's been nice so far. I'm not complaining. There's a few things that I'm doing all around the sport, which has given me everything. So it's good to be doing different things in the same ecosystem. That actually kind of excites me.
I think that's beautifully said, because what was it, like 2-3 weeks back that we were taking the same flight to Bangalore back from the UAE. You just finished your broadcaster duties. You've been a part of this dressing room. You've been part of this D team for the last couple of years, and now it's a completely different role. You have to carry on your bag right now.
You're giving away all my secrets.
Things have changed a little bit now, no? How is it different from when you entered the dressing room as a player to now being like part of this coaching staff, some staff?
Extremely different. Firstly, as a player, you think a lot for yourself. What you need to do, how you need to prep. Today, I'm thinking for a lot more people. It's a big challenge. If you want to be very authentic to them and provide insights that can be very helpful, you need to go that extra distance in trying to understand the person and then understand the player. Coaching is a lot about understanding the person. And then you can, when you connect with them, the rest of it follows through as to what you're trying to say, the messaging. If you don't understand the person, you could be lost in translation, whatever you try to say.
Would it be right to say that maybe on anxiety or nerves or reservations, or did you know what you were getting yourself into? I'm talking about that conversation we had a flight back from the UAE and asked you, how will this be? And you're like, I'm actually a little more nervous than I would have been had I been playing that season. Why so? Where did that come from?
I was nervous. A bit of the unknown, isn't it? I've been on this side of the fence, being a player. It's a very luxurious life, actually. Coaching, you try and be as hospitable as possible. That's what it is. So you're completely in the other end of the spectrum. So to move from here as a player to being the one who is helping the player with whatever he wants is a very different feeling, a very different process, one that you need to prepare a lot more differently. And that is what was the unknown and exciting bit as well. How am I going to react in the game? We are going to be practicing so many things, and there is no chance anyone can execute what we have planned every time. There's going to be faults, there is going to be mistakes, and there's also going to be things that the player does his own way. Understanding all of that. What will my emotions be? So long, I always knew I could control a certain part of the game. Right now, I'm dependent on whoever I've practiced with to go out there and execute to the best of their abilities. But in a way, it is a bit helpless. Though I want to be a very different coach. I want to be a lot more dynamic in terms of what I can provide to a player, even in game. But it is very challenging, but extremely exciting too.
10 minutes to go. Can they deliver? They've brought it home in 10 minutes. Remember the name.
Big Basket, 10 minute ka naya naam. Give me an example of what went into coaching, little bit behind the scenes. Did you see it replicated on the field or not replicated on the field with a particular player?
When I got the job and then we picked the team, I wanted to work with batters in a certain way and understanding their techniques and providing tactical insights into how it can be achieved on the field. Let's take the Padikkal for an example. We worked in a camp pre-IPL, and then slowly we started bonding as the tournament closed in. So basically in the build-up to the tournament, I spent a lot more time with him, and we first developed a bit of a bond, and then we started getting into the technical and tactical side of things. So, for the first match, the way we approached to play Varun Chakravarti, where you stand in the crease, what sort of shot you look to play, to a Sunil Narayan, how you use the depth of the crease, etc. And he went out there. He only got 10 in 10 balls, I think. But he and I knew we are in that process of doing something special. Like, he believed in what I said, and he also got, a boundary in a certain way that we had discussed. If you stand here, you could get a ball here and you could look to do this, etc., etc. And it almost panned out nicely. So that is a good start between a coach-player relationship. When you plan something and it gets executed on ground, then he also believes that, Dinesh is making sense here. So that was a good start. And again, the next game in Chennai, he batted beautifully.
Yeah.
So in the first game, he showed whatever it took in terms of how he wanted to do things on the field. In the second game, the result came. So it is about understanding the process. And I think good coaches understand processes. Don't judge people based on results. It's a very tough one. Sometimes emotions can get the better of you, but the more you understand the process and how close you stick to the process, eventually helps you achieve what you want to.
And you've been sitting there like on the benches in the dugouts. You've been taking the notes. We've seen that version of yourself. So data analysis when you were a player, but now when you're applying it to particular batters, you've been a broadcaster as well. So you know how much we believe in matchups and statistics and all of that. Has it taken shape in your coaching? How much of it should be instinct for your player? How much of it should be backed by data?
It depends on the player. Some people are very use stats while playing. When I say stats is wrong. Data.
Like what did you like doing when you were back?
I was someone who understood data, and then I prepared in my practice using thinking what I would be facing in the game and get prepped. I was not someone who completely trashed the data metrics. I used to have a glimpse and see if there is any trends and patterns, and then understand, okay, and then if this bowler is trying to do this, then if I look to do this, there's a good chance I could get success. Using data and stats is an ocean. And what we are doing right now is just scratching the surface. But you also need to understand a team using data metrics vis-a-vis an individual using it is very different. When you come from a broadcast point of view, it is very different. You're trying to use stats to show people something that's very obvious. When you come from an individual perspective, it's more tactical. Okay, this guy tends to do this, so then I can, using my technique, get into this position, because if that is something that he does, then this will help me achieve success. That's the kind of school that you need to come in from as an individual. But as a coach, you need to mix and marry both. One is the team side of things and one is the individual. So when you understand the individual, there are players in the team who don't believe in stats, who don't believe in all these data metrics. I have a certain feel. The word they use is a feel. I'll get out there. I've played so much cricket. I know what it takes to perform. Once I get out there, I'll react to it instinctively. It's insane. And both have achieved success.
Yeah.
For example, I don't think MS Dhoni is a big user of stats. He goes in the game, sees the pitch, looks at the bowler, what is the batter doing, and he'll react instinctively. And there is also an Owen Morgan sort of captain who uses data, understands trends and patterns, and then goes in the game and reacts accordingly. So there are different ways to do it. But the key is believing in your instinct. That is very, very important. You use data to prep and to perform, you use your instinct. If you can find a good marriage between both, it'll be a very successful marriage. We get juxtaposed as to how you want to use what, then it could be a very troublesome space.
You being such a accomplished player and such an experienced player can obviously say that. How is the younger generation viewing it now when we talk about trends in this format? And it's a fastest evolved format if you think about T20. So a younger generation that comes into it now, is there a little bit of confusion when you're looking to marry these two worlds?
I think it's the job of the coach, as I said, to understand the player and understand what amount of information will be accepted by that person. Just because you have a lot of information and you feel it is useful, you can't thrust it upon the player. It becomes the duty of the coach to understand how much is enough. Sometimes less is more. You go by that. Sometimes some people like it. So you push and pull according to the player. But from an individual player point of view, using stats is a bit of a trial and error. You start by understanding and seeing if it works. For some people it does, for some people it doesn't. And you need to find that sweet spot, what works for you and what doesn't. It takes time, but if you can understand how to use it, it will definitely help you. It will definitely help post-season.
Yeah.
The one thing that you can't do in IPL is, if you had a successful season, go back, turn up the next season and expect to perform. Because other people have now understood, okay, this is what this guy does. So then we will look to do this. So you have to go one up and say, okay, at the end of the season, these were my strengths, these were my weaknesses. At least this is what I feel internally. Now, what does data tell me? Okay, data is telling me this, it's not as bad as I think. Okay, this is an area that guys could target, so let me become better at this. You can use it as a troubleshooting tool.
I think that's really important because, a lot of people don't realize how challenging it is to maintain consistency year after year. Let's go back to you entering the dressing room as a coach, because I don't know if you can see it or not, but DK has just put little back support. So clearly he's still been playing a lot of cricket. Has your body understood that you're not playing competitive cricket anymore? Because a couple of months ago, you just were. Mind, body, everything is in a different zone, DK.
Sure, I'll tell you this, Mandy. I played the SA20, very comfortable.
Yeah.
Enjoyed the cricket all. After coming here, when I say coming here, joining the RCB team as a mentor, the one thing that we coaches have done quite a bit is play pickleball. Day 1 nice, day 2 nice, day 3 nice. So we would play 3 days on the bounce. Then we went to Calcutta first game. We had 4-day break there. Day 1 we went and played. Become pretty competitive.
Yeah.
People are improving. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. And I believe it's nice to play something competitive even if you're a coach. Day 2, great. On the day of the game, he went and played pickleball. It's supposed to be a sport which people slightly on the older side enjoy playing because there's less impact on your knees and all that. I was playing first 15 minutes. Suddenly I did something bad. 1 week since then, I have struggled. I have not had a injury/catch like that for a long time. I was gone. I was a bed rest, but if I lay down, it was hard to get up. If I get up, it was hard to lay down. That I went through that for about 3-4 days, and slowly but steadily it settled down. So my body actually isn't as good as it used to be for playing other sports. So far for cricket, I think my muscles know which ones work. So I think the muscles are ready for some sort of cricket. But when I play something different, body is like, hello, what are you doing? Like, you're not ready for it.
And you don't have the access to physios like you did before, right? Like, you can't call the shots here anymore, can you?
Well, you don't get as much time even when you want. We have 2 physios here and both are very accommodating. They helped me through that phase and they were kind enough to say you can come when you want. But I know the player is a priority. Exactly. The coach has a back problem. It's okay. He's sitting and watching the game. Not a problem. So I didn't trouble them too much. But eventually I went through what I call animal treatment. You just be there. It will eventually get okay. The body will find a way to get better because it's a catch. So it is okay.
So DK, you had taken the decision, last year. But obviously 1 year is a long time. You come back to the dressing room. It feels the same, but it's kind of different. For you mentally, yes, you've taken the decision. But as far as the team was concerned, the players that you played with, what was their approach to seeing you back in a dressing room, but in a different role?
First up, I thought my toughest relationship would be Virat Kohli. Purely because we've played a lot together. Almost a decade now. And he's seen me as a player and I was thinking, how is that relationship going to change? And kudos to him. So far, he's been outstanding. He's been very warm. He's been very respectful. In fact, one of the reasons why I took it up is he gave me a feel like, DK, you can do this. So that gave me the confidence as well. And the other 2 guys who I've played with is Rajat and Yash. You got to understand the rest of them I have not played with. A lot of them I've played against, for sure, but not with. So the relationship from day 1 was very different and they kind of embraced it. With Rajat, even though I've played only a couple of years, I have a sweet little relationship with him. And today he's the skipper and he's doing a wonderful job. I'm very happy for him. I can see how much he's grown as a person and he's not changed one bit. And I love that about him. Very, very relaxed, very neutral to anything that happens around him. I love that about him. Yash, again, was something that I thought, I played with him, let's see how this goes. But from day 1, I haven't found it any different. Now, from the players that we picked, a couple of the guys who I've obviously played with, one is Hoff, Josh Hazelwood. Hoff is his nickname. So, other one is actually Bhuvi. Now, Bhuvi is somebody, again, I've played with quite a bit. But he's such a soft, sweet-spoken guy, that rather sweet, soft-spoken guy that I didn't need to make an effort to, kind of do anything different. It's just been nice. And also, at the end of the day, they have a very different skill set, which is bowling. And I'm dealing mainly as somebody who's helping every batter. It's a very different equation altogether. So I haven't done anything different as a player, but a lot of people who have left the sport and come immediately into coaching, at times I've heard a bit daunting in trying to understand the relationship, because it changes. The way you structure conversation
The
changes.
hierarchy now, actually, that you're part of. In a way, if you think about it.
Yeah, it is. It can be a hierarchy, but kudos to Mo and Andy. They haven't made players feel that way. It's more of, we are there to help you out. There is a way that we want you guys to play, and we have picked you because we know you have the skill sets that can play a certain way. And we believe in that. And we're staying true to that. And the players are doing the best that they can every time they walk out onto the field. And that's about as healthy as it can be in an atmosphere like IPL, where you're here for 2.5 months and you're doing everything possible to have a successful year.
So obviously, I mean, that's the one question everyone asks, is the work that you do with Virat, let's say, in the nets. I mean, how does that go about? Because what more can you teach Virat Kohli, or what is the role that you can play, DK, in assisting or helping or visualization? I mean, how does that session go with the two of you?
Players like that don't need coaching. I think it can be a bit overrated. What they need is support and care. They just want you as a coach to know that if in case I have a bad day, treat me the same. And that's the least you can do. He is a man who's achieved everything possible in this sport. And we want more out of him, which is fair. And he's doing everything possible. So when I just stand behind the nets, I just observe, I watch. In fact, it's only fair to say that it's the other way around. He probably teaches me a little bit more than I teach him anything. And so far, I haven't taught him nothing. He knows it all. All I make sure is I ask him what he wants. Does he want to play sidearm? Does he want to play fast bowlers? Does he want to play spinners? But he's been kind enough to say, DK, I want to work on this. Well, how shall we go about it? And then I say, okay, let's try and do this. And that's a nice space to be in, because, as I said, just because I've become a coach over a period of 3 months, is not like I can teach him how to play the sport. And that almost is the same case with a lot of the players. They're all professionals. As long as you treat them the same way, and that's a vibe/feeling that you give them, depending on how you behave with them. And when they know that you're very authentic and very genuine, and you treat both the imposters, success and failure, in the same way, you can feel it.
10 minutes to go. Can they deliver? They've brought it home in 10 minutes. Remember the name. Big Basket. 10 minute ka naya naam.
When you were batting for RCB, that role was very clear. It was your designated, and you were an experienced player. So mentally, we all viewed you as being incredibly tough to be able to handle those high pressure situations of just coming out there and raising the bar, raising the standards, and raising the run rate. Now, when you're working with players or batting at the back end, how do those conversations go, not just from the skill set point of view, but also from the mental point of view of absorbing pressure of finishing off games or accelerating and, pushing past 200 plus totals? Well, I should be saying 250 totals because the game has changed a bit, just a touch.
See, the one thing that I believe will help me in my coaching is I've been through the ranks in the batting order. I've opened, I've batted 3, I've batted 7, I've batted 10. So I know what it takes to be good at different numbers. Not that I have been good in those numbers, but at least I know what it takes. And I think that has helped me as a coach so far in making people understand, using what their skill sets are, how to approach a situation. Yes, I've been a finisher in the last stage of my career, and that is a very familiar place for me. And the likes of Tim David, Jitesh, now I had some good conversations, it's gone well. Again, as I said, they're gun players. They don't need too much of advice. They just need, I'm a bit like the Google Maps for them. Just show them the direction, they'll find their way. So that's what I try and facilitate.
I've had some interesting conversations last couple of games, actually. 300 has still not been breached. It's been last 10 overs, bowlers fighting back a little bit. You've seen the run rate actually going down towards the death end. And Morgan was on the show the other day, and he said something interesting. He said that you have to understand that the power game is a template of batting. You can't because he was saying, take 2-3 deliveries to get set and then go for it. I said, but Do you have the time, the luxury to consolidate, to get set? He said, yes, it's part of the template. So is that something that we now are understanding, that maybe you do have that luxury of being able to get set, but you plan it in such a way that you can finish it?
I agree with what Morgan says, because power game is an aspect of it. But if that's the only thing that you want to do, you get pulled into a place which can be very dark in terms of shot making. You pigeonhole yourself into playing high risk shots when you don't need to be doing it in certain situations. So to understand when to do that is very important.
Fair enough. Now, what about the bowlers?
Hmm.
It looks like they're coming up with a few more variations. Things have been pulling back. So conversations with your bowlers, you've got a variety in your bowling attack now that you can use at almost any point of the game. Do you feel like the fact that we still haven't seen 300, is this low bowlers? Are they fighting back a little bit, DK?
It's not going to be too long
Yeah.
before the 300 is breached, purely because of the power that exists within the game, how flat the pitches are, how there is so little lateral movement for the pacers and for the spinners. It's a very batsman-oriented format, this, without a shadow of doubt. So it's not going to be too long. And obviously, you take the boundary sizes, it's not going to be too long before that is breached. What I am keen to see is in 5 years' time, in 2008, 180 was massive. And slowly, about 2013, you felt like we get 200.
That's good.
That's huge. But today, we're talking about 250, 260 being par. That's a massive difference. There is no sport that has grown so quickly in terms of how much every skill set required in the sport has evolved. Even tennis, if you see over a period of time, if you do go to the pre-open era to what it is in the 80s to what it is now, the major aspect of that is improved is power and speed. But it's taken a good couple of decades to get to where it is today. Cricket has just grown extremely quickly in the last decade. It's purely the skill set of the batter and the variations of the bowlers have increased enormously. What I'm really excited by for the sport is how much more sky is the limit, as they say, and I can see things just evolving and going not so much quicker. It's quite exciting to be part of the sport right now.
And one of the things that we've witnessed in this league also is how it's transformed, how IPL has been a bit of a trendsetter when it comes to even how international teams plan to bat. The auction, now you've been part of auctions as a player, your name has come up, you've been through all the vagrancies of that. When you entered, what were you expecting, DK? How had you built yourself up for that? What was your process throughout that entire auction? How did you take it in?
Let me just say at the outset, after being announced as the mentor and batting coach of RCB, the most exciting week of my life was that auction bit. Oh my God. Long days, extremely intense, mentally tiring, but wow, what an experience. When I just turn back and look at that 1 week of prep that we had, it's one of the most exhilarating experiences that I've ever had associated with the sport. The number of permutations and equations that you go through and how you prep and how you do it. I'm sure every team has had the same experience in their own way, but mine was fantastic. And the auction as is a very different dynamic to whatever I have experienced, how people think, how different tables think, different teams think rather. So it was very exciting and extremely knowledgeable as well. A lot of what you are as an individual, how you think comes through, how you gauge players, what you see and how you want your team to be. But you're not going to, almost every team walks into an auction knowing that what they have planned is definitely not what they're going to get.
Yeah.
That is a given. So
you mentally prepared yourself.
You're mentally prepared for the worst. But even that worst is so unknown. What can be there? What is the trend? In this auction, the trend was people went berserk in the first couple of hours.
Mega auction.
What numbers?
Happens, yeah.
No, the previous
Marquee
auction in
also,
2018 when it happened, it was the opposite. They went very quietly. The first two sets of marquee players, as they call it, went very quiet. This was anything but that. So one auction.
I feel like a lot of teams are looking for captains in this auction.
True. So one auction, and even in that marquee auction, I remember Ashwin was the captain for Punjab and he went from the marquee set. But this auction, my goodness, the numbers that people went for, the numbers that you had slotted for certain players to what they went for, and you're thinking, wow. So the ability to adapt immediately at that table, understanding, okay, maybe our numbers are very different to what we thought it out to be. Let's go. And then you change and you try and figure out, okay, we need to do this, we need to do that, and whatever it is. And on the bounce, at that moment, you need to be very sharp. And it is fun, but it is scary as well, because what you're doing determines how a franchisee performs for the next 3 years. So that's a lot of responsibility. So you want to make sure you try and do as good a job as possible, but you're prepared for it. You can prepare how much ever you want. The beauty is, when you prepare for an exam, then you prepare. But you almost know what questions they're going to ask, because it'll be within this subject. In this, yes, it's a similar concept. Even though I use this analogy, you will, obviously the names of the players you'll know, but what
And
you're going to expect from other teams in terms of how they evaluate a player is completely unknown. When you study for an exam, the answer, if there's a question, the answer is the same for every person. Whatever they write, that will be the same. But in this, it's a very subjective thing. How you value a player could be very different to what someone else has valued it. So then you might think, okay, I'll get this guy easy because of this price I think you can get. And it is
it's not the case.
diametrically different to what is happening there. So to understand and adapt to that is quite interesting.
It's like a war room atmosphere in a word.
It is a war room.
Because you're bidding.
is.
And are you reading other teams' body languages? Are you peeping here and there and saying, I think they're going, like, what was that?
It's a very disarming place,
Yeah.
the auction. And why I say that is, they put up all teams in the same hotel.
Okay.
You know everybody.
Yeah. So you're like hiding.
You're having
papers,
conversations,
reading
but
story.
it can tend to get awkward because you are trying, every person there is trying to make sure that they don't give away even a sniff of what they're looking to do. So, and all of us are involved in the same sport. So, you're almost having conversation in and around cricket. Yes, the basic pleasantries start, but at some point you will talk what else. It's not like we are very well versed in scientific conversations. It's going to be somewhere around the sport, and you're thinking, okay, the guys, if you don't speak to them, it's rude. At the same time, you're speaking to them without giving away too much information. It's a very weird, awkward space for a couple of days. And all of that was also very interesting. So going through that process was, as I said, very enlightening, fun, and I have to put the word scary in that word as well.
Was it also challenging for you because having played for different IPL teams and, suddenly seeing what were your previous owners, your previous coaches, and does that ever, even now, I'm sure it must be coming up in match situations as well, because you're obviously taking on a lot of teams that you played for, you captained, and do those emotions ever come up? Because those relationships still exist, no, DK?
Look, I think I'm familiar with that.
Yeah.
Knowing players, they're going to play against me. So it's just for the three.
But managements, not just players, but teams and coaches and managements.
That as well.
Yeah.
To a large extent, IPL is a place where you tend to move around teams. Very few have played for the same team throughout their career. So you tend to move around teams, you adapt to that, you understand the dynamics surrounding that, and that's how it is. But as I said, the auction is a very different dynamic in terms of understanding players and meeting different managements. Yes, at the end of the day, we're all there to do one thing, which is trying to win the comp, and everybody has the same goal. So you all do it your own way with the belief that it will happen because you have the right process, and eventually there can only be one winner, but you respect all the others who are also putting in an effort to try and do this. So that's how sport works. Not everyone can be a winner, but as long as you have a method and you believe in that method, I think you're going in the right direction.
DK, I started this episode teasing you, saying that your business card will have several different designations. And the fact is, it's inspiring to see how you have planned this transition, because a lot of athletes, and your family, you're married to an athlete as well. She comes from a history of sports people. It's very challenging to be an elite athlete, because one chapter of your life that you've known for 20, 15 years closes when you're just about 30, when the rest are just starting their life and thinking about, okay, these are our next steps. Retirement, transitions, when did you actually start planning the process? Your contemporaries, there must be so many people who may not have played for the country at the highest level, who may not have the exposure of IPL anymore, but have to say goodbye from the game. That mental transition, how do we go by it?
The moment I knew they're not going to pick me for the Indian team, I was almost done. My whole aim through my career was to represent the country and to do the best that I can. Whatever I did, be it playing domestic cricket, even in IPL, I had that. My ultimate goal was to do well in IPL so that I can not only win the comp, but also play for the Indian team. And in 22, I achieved that. 24, again, I had a great start and they were going to pick a team. But when I got to know that, no, we're not going to pick you, we moved on from you, which is very fair. I was okay. I was like, okay, then. So what happens is when you reach a certain age, you obviously, it's a very normal thought process that you have. When do you call it quits? Some people say one day you'll wake up and you'll be done. For some people, they have an injury and they know they can't play the sport anymore. Different people, some people feel like, oh, I have a young family and hence I don't want to do it. That was also one of my reasons. I have 2 young kids and I wanted to spend a lot more time with them. So that was also part of the reason. 3 things that told me that I think it's time I move on. One, in the lead up to the IPL, I was playing domestic cricket. So that used to be my precursor to the IPL. And that requires me preparing for it. And I was someone who was very meticulous with preparation. I believed a lot in preparation and spent a lot of time in practice and training. When I knew that I couldn't represent the country anymore, I knew that my training will not be the same that it would be. So that itself, I can't go into anything in my life without preparing for it. That is very important aspect. I'm completely okay with failing. As long as I know I have worked hard for it, I'm okay. That's how I look at things. So when I knew I can't give the same intensity or the same time and energy required for me to excel, then I thought it's enough.
You called it on your own terms. Not everyone gets a chance to do that. You go unsold in the auction, then, domestic structure is not working out anymore. Playing for India is a far dream. What is the system or the structure in place? Because now in a mentorship capacity, what would you say to players like that about realistically? I always tell you have a 5-year plan. Like, what should your realistic 5-year plan be? Because you understand how the system works in India.
People who are very content with their career. Let's take all the examples that you said. If you're unsold, if you know you can't play for India again, there is only 2 things you can do. One, you either train so hard and give yourself a chance. And if after that you don't get that opportunity, you need to be able to move on knowing that you've tried everything. So that is very important. Or another, where you realize that I don't have it in me to go through that whole grind of trying to push for a place. So I'll go ahead and do something. People get very excited about everything that revolves around the sport. For example, I'm sitting here today and I'm chatting to you and you're one of the most prominent broadcasters going around in the country.
Thank you.
And you're doing it because I'm in RCB. I should be very aware of that. If tomorrow, I'm not part of this ecosystem, I should be in a space to understand that I got the respect I got because of the place that I am. If I'm sitting here in RCB and I ask somebody, can you get me this cup? They'll happily do it. But when I go back to domestic cricket and I ask the same person, he might not do it. He is respecting you because of this atmosphere you're in. As long as you understand where your place is in the ecosystem, you'll be very happy and content. The moment you think you are the big deal and people are constantly doing things because of who you are, you take yourself a bit too seriously. And when in case you move out of that space, then it becomes a challenge because people are respecting you and treating you because of everything around this place. It's very important to understand who you are as a person. Then it becomes much easier to deal with everything else around it. I feel people get very attached to the celebrity status around it and try really hard to hang on to it. I'm not saying all. I'm just saying there are. There, as long as you know your place and what you are in this system, I think you'll be able to navigate through life much easier.
It's brilliantly said because ego is actually very important and not just as a cricket, for an elite athlete. You need to have ego because you have to believe you're the best to be the best. So when your ego gets hurt or it's not the same as it used to, that is what's hard to let go of. Now, your partner is someone who's also played an elite sport at the highest level, has been through all the waves, all the emotions, comes from a sporting family. Ego is very interesting to a sports person.
Ego can be your greatest ally if you use it for the right reasons. Like Virat Kohli. He has a cricketing ego. When he goes out there, he wants to take on the best bowler in the world, best bowler in the opponent, and take him down. He gets pleasure in that. That's what he thrives on. If he doesn't have it, I don't think he'll play that sport. Every match he goes, he wants to make sure that, who's the best bowler, I'll take down that guy. That is an ego. That is okay. That gets the best out of you as a sportsman. You are who you are because of what you do on a sports field. It's very important to understand that. But if you take your ego outside and say, I was such a big cricketer, why they don't do this for me, why they don't that for me, then that can be a very tough place. Because I think being in this sporting ecosystem is a bit of a bubble. When you take yourself out of that place, suppose tomorrow I go to Iceland. I use this Iceland, I don't know why, but I use Iceland always as an example.
You've been to Iceland?
Never. I just
that's
assume
from
Iceland.
I think that's from the
because the word ice is there, I feel not much sport that. So if I go there, nobody will recognize. Nobody will want a photo with me.
Indians will be everywhere. DK will find someone who will ask you for a selfie.
I really
If you
doubt.
go to Iceland, ask him, okay, if you see the...
I know. So if I go to Iceland and I'm just standing there,
I know what you are trying.
nobody is going to be talking to me because I'm a cricketer. They'll talk to me because Dinesh Karthik is the person once they get interviewed. So you have to be very comfortable with that. This cricketing ego you can't take there, and there's a little bit of entitlement saying, you know who I am, and you have that chip on your shoulder, you'll definitely not attract people towards you. So I think you're going to understand yourself as a person and personality. And as you keep growing in the sport, it's very important to grow your personality and understand where you are as a person and what you enjoy doing. A lot of the time it is playing the sport, but also having things outside of the sport which constantly give you perspective in life. That will help you stay very balanced. As you said correctly, you can be the best at playing cricket, but you can only play it up to an age. And that is that finishes so early. In a lot of other aspects of life, normal walks of life, the IT specialists, all the other, they're all starting
their lives at 30.
They get excited at 40 because that's when they can keep rising the rank and going up. So it's very important to get perspective.
10 minutes to go. Can they deliver? They've brought it home in 10 minutes. Remember the name. Big Basket. 10 minute ka naya naam.
How much of becoming a broadcaster helped you with that transition? Because again, it's like I always see these, I've been doing this for so long, that the players that I watched growing up are now retiring and becoming broadcasters. And it's so different. Again, you're carrying a bag, people asking for your ID, everything is on your own, no one is doing that. So it's kind of strips away a little part of that ego that you had when you were the center of attention, being an elite athlete, and you're joining the new team, you're joining as a new person, you're joining as a novice. Did that kind of help with this transition of letting go of that part of the personality?
Broadcasting helped me two ways. One, I realized that whatever broadcasters say, you can't take it personally. They're talking about you, the player.
DK, did you take it personally when broadcasters spoke about you?
Before I started broadcasting.
Yeah.
I think I was wise enough to stay off social media during the time I played.
But when you played for India in 2019 and all, there were a lot of conversations about your age. Correct. I've been part of those conversations, irrespective of your performance.
Correct. I used to always feel why they're looking at age. For a sportsman, it is about whether I'm good enough to play and not. But then I understood the context. But I understood the context after I became a broadcaster. So what did broadcasting do for me? Two things. One, if you say, if you come and if you have said on air, I don't think Dinesh Karthik is a good enough player. He's old. I think we can look at young talent. You're talking about Dinesh Karthik, the cricketer. You're not talking about Dinesh Karthik, the person. For me to understand the difference is what helped me with broadcasting. People are speaking about you related to the sport. They're not talking about you, the person. I think people get a little confused with that as a player. And players mostly are very sensitive. You can tell them 10 good things, but the one thing that you feel that they can improve and that they'll hold on to, so you feel I'm not good in that. They'll go down that road. You have to find a way to stay away from that as a player. The second thing it also helped me is staying detached. Broadcasting is a very lonely place. When you're a broadcaster, irrespective of which team wins or loses, you have nothing. You just call a game. You see the game, you see it unfolding. Your responsibility is to the millions of viewers who are watching across age groups and genders to make them understand the sport some ways, to keep it light for them, to keep it fun, but at the same time, a little engaging. And if you can be informative, even better. That is how I look at it. But actually, you are like in a meals package, you are the pickle. If you're there, it's nice. But if you're not there, nobody misses you. That's what broadcasting is to me. But as soon as you understand that, broadcasting can be a very fun place. You have a very small group of commentators that you work with. You can hang around with them. It starts and stops there. That's about it. It's a very lonely place, according to me. Whereas when you play for the team, it's a lot more collaborative, a lot more fun. It's very different. You're a lot more emotionally attached. So I understood the emotional detachment with broadcasting. And these two aspects is what I learned from broadcasting. You've been a podcaster. I don't know.
Yeah, all this while DK is like, it's a lonely place. I thought DK and I were friends and would have great conversations and during the matches. I thought I kept you company, DK.
But you know what I mean.
I know exactly. I know exactly what you mean, because it is very individualistic. in the fact that you're assigned a role, you're assigned a roster, and you have to just look out for yourself. Have I ever asked you about your first day? Who were you working with as a
My
broadcaster?
first day was a very interesting one. So there are two first days, you got to understand. One is work from home, called COVID time. So that is the first day as well.
different, yeah. But like, yeah.
And I had a couple of lovely people to work with off air. Like, I worked with Nasser Hussain, Michael Atherton, a very
Proper legends, yeah.
proper legends in the broadcasting world and as cricketers, without a doubt. So very warm, very fun. I have a great equation with them. My first ever experience being in the Combox was the World Test Championship final. India versus England, South Africa during COVID, but I was transported to that place through quite a journey, and that involved having Mr. Gavaskar with me for 10 days. It was so much fun. But anyway, I got there, no clue what broadcasting is. So we reached a day before, and the first person to show me the ranks was Isa Guha. So she's like, "Hi DK, welcome." There's nobody in the Combox. She said, "Come, I'll teach you a few things." So she took me. She told me how to hold a mic, how I should keep it when I speak, how I should keep it down when I speak. So we don't get to meet as often, but I'll never forget that first day when she taught me. That was my first day before the match. Man, my first day in the match was obviously the first day of the test match, and I did the first hour or the second half an hour of the test match. It was fun. I was with Nasser Hussain, and it was a fun half an hour, and very nervous. I made a joke of him, and that's the beauty of Nasser. I don't know him too much, but I was able to make a joke on him, and he took it in a very, very light-hearted, fun manner, which I enjoyed. And from then on, the relationship has been the same. So I'm very grateful to him as well. And I'll never forget Isa Guha for being the first person to teach me the basics of what it is to commentate.
And you've gone from strength to strength. It's so with so much pride, we see you doing all these big ICC events and, being the Indian face in that part of that world team roster. It's really, really nice to see DK. DK, when we're talking about transitions to the next phase. It's not just about the planning. For example, you had planned that you have these other avenues that you want to pursue. For a lot of other elite athletes, one is suddenly a source of income goes away, right? So what sort of financial planning is important? Education necessarily in terms of if you want to do things like, startups and all, we don't have MBA degrees and all, we never barely went to school. So what are the options or the avenues that you have at this age?
Firstly, I'm very amazed that you feel I'm good enough to answer this question. That feels very high-test and intellectual by my standard. I think.
Why I'm asking you is because obviously I've been married to someone who's been through similar transitions to retired.
Yeah.
So I've seen the other side of it where we talk about, okay, now how do we start this next phase, right? A lot of and I got pregnant. I delivered exactly when he retired. Both of us were not working. That can be very stressful, right?
No, I completely get it. I can't say I empathize with you because I've not been with you during that phase, but I can tell you it's a tough place to be because you've got to understand a major chunk of every cricketer's earning if they're part of the IPL is this, unless you're obviously a Virat Kohli or a Rohit Sharma, then, obviously you have other avenues because of the brand that you are. For a lot of others, I'm talking a majority, this is a major chunk. And tomorrow, if you're finishing your sport, that means that's done. So two things I believe will help you. First thing, basic education. And that's why I always believe young kids, as much as you love the sport and you want to become the best at it and you're thrown into it early, and a lot of guys take that option of just practicing all day and not studying, it comes back to haunt you later when you don't have basic education. Even to the fact that if you have basic education, however good you are and whatever money you earn, you'll learn to invest it wisely. Now, I don't think I'm good enough to give you advice on how to invest, but definitely having a basic education and a good upbringing helps you deal with that. You don't get too carried away. As I said, you got to understand what your place in the system is and not get carried away by the whole glamour that is around the sport as well. Once you get attached to that, you will forget that your main aim was to become the best cricketer that you want to be. So basic education and good upbringing helps you with that. Now, the second aspect of it, I believe if you want to invest in anything that you want, especially from a physical point of view, and you need to be passionate about it. You want to start a business. Oh, somebody started a restaurant and that's doing so well, so I'll start a restaurant.
A lot of people, yeah.
Without understanding how much passion you have towards it, there is no business that you can get into saying, that guy is making money, so I'll put my money and I'll make money. It doesn't work that way in life. That much I've realized. You get into things that you're very passionate about and try to be the best at it, money will follow you. You try to run after money because someone else is doing it, you will eventually burn yourself out because the end goal doesn't obviously relate to what you are as a person. So you always run after your passion, other things will follow you. You run after the wrong things, it can get a very hard pace. Is the best that I can think of. But I must say thank you for asking such a very intellectual question. I believe that I don't have the skill sets to answer it. But these are two
really well.
philosophies that I believe in.
I think you answered it really well. It's always great to have backup plans no matter what you're doing. So in terms of mentorship, obviously, it's your experience. You played in this league for a number of years. You've captained teams. So in terms of mentorship and coaching, we feel like, okay, you have that background to get into this. In terms of broadcast, there's so many things you may not have expected. The in-ear, the lazy, just the hygiene of broadcast, when to pick up, when to go, the roles that are assigned. Was there a process of, I know a lot of ex-cricketers helped you as well, but in that process of transition, did you do a little course? Did you do like a speaking course? Is there something that you did different in terms of language, adjectives? No?
So I had a couple of calls with someone who's been involved in broadcasting, and he gave me the basics around it. But I was also lucky. So when I went to work for ICC for the first time, the broadcasting head was an Indian called Ajish.
Yeah.
And he was very kind. He's come through the ranks, and he helped me a lot with understanding how it needs to be done. Just the basics he taught me. Very soft-spoken, lovely person. I know you know him, but I'm making it sound like you don't know him. Not that I want to sound condescending, but it is.
No. That's
person.
Everyone else doesn't know.
He is the person who genuinely made me understand what broadcasting is. What will the person sitting in the room want to hear? Through the strengths that I have. Everybody has different strengths. If you look at, and for example, Ravi Shastri, he can modulate beautifully. Gavaskar is always a storyteller. So you need to understand what your space is. I believe I'm somebody who can bring fun and humor, at the same time speak about certain technical aspects of what's happening on the field. That's where I feel my expertise is. So he told me to try and become very good at that, and how I'm able to say a lot without speaking too much. You tend to eat up time, and that's unfair. So you have to be very concise. So he taught me all of that. And you learn on the go, like anything else in life. But the basics were taught to me by Ajesh. And a couple of days before I did my first ever stint, which was work from home, a couple of basic things I was taught. And I started there. And slowly, as you keep walking this path, you will understand. You will definitely walk over a few thorns. But eventually, you'll find your place and just walk carefully.
And also for us now, we're very aware of the impact that sometimes our words can have on social media, because generations do change. And we as generations need to involve when you're being the voice. And that makes it a slightly tricky relationship with social media. I know, you both generate your own content, and it's beautiful to see that as well. But there is also the flip side of where it can be very daunting and sometimes be hanging over you when you're talking.
Again, social media is a very, very interesting and a beautiful place, as long as you know how to deal with it. You have to understand what it gives you and what you can get out of it. But don't ever let that platform be the judge of you as a person. That is very important. It really can affect you, mentally. So as long as you have a very healthy relationship with it, there is so much good information out there. There are so many, and it is, again, a financial vertical as well. So these are all the positives of it. And you understand that, and you use it by being wise enough, and at the same time, giving people what they want in terms of which profession you are in. Don't try to be too clever. I think some people get caught in that. It's not a place to show the world who you are.
It's not a competition.
No. I think what people like is genuine authenticity and honesty. I mean, they probably both mean the same, but yes, that is kind of what they expect.
So you've done so many things. You have time off at all? You got twins to handle. It's like a lot. Back home, how does the day go? You recently took them to the UAE. You went out with the kids, and like that whole part, that whole aspect. What is
that's a big advantage of being a broadcaster. You can spend time with. There's when you're a player, the pressures are a lot more. You have to practice constantly at the back of your mind. It's the brain works like that. You're thinking about the game, who's coming, what's happening, all of that. As a broadcaster, much lesser. You do your prep in the lead up to the game. You understand, okay, what you're going to say, what you want to talk about, or something technical. You just understand, speak to the right people, Hawkeye, and all of those people, and understand, make a play, and keep it ready. That's it. Over. After that, you can spend your time, chill, enjoy. So I like that part of broadcasting where I can take my family, spend a lot more time in between games and all. I really enjoy it.
The kids, what versions of your personalities do they bring out in you? Like whatever you had to work on,
So
whatever you had to change your interests on, because kids are just a different ballgame.
they are. They've been the best part of our life in the last 3 years. A lot of fun, very energetic. One guy is a lot into sport,
Yeah.
mad about sport. One guy has absolutely no interest, diametrically opposite to this guy. So two different personalities, two very different looking twins, but it's been good fun. We've been lucky. We have been able to travel a lot with them. And that's been very important. Even when I went to SA20, I played for PAL Royals, and the Royals franchise was brilliant. They took care of me really nicely, and we stayed in a lovely hotel, and that was the best cricketing tournament I've had as a family. The most beautiful tournament, SA20. I would love for anybody who's thinking about playing to try and fly their trade there. Just because I'm from PAL, I found it the most beautiful place on earth almost. Like everything that I liked was there. That's what I enjoyed.
To be able to take your families. And I mean, obviously, for years, I've been...
See, IPL is a very heavy duty,
Yeah, it is.
high intensity, all eyeballs on you tournament.
That's what I was just going to say. For families, it's hard.
It is, breathing space is very less.
Yeah.
Other tournaments are not as intense as this. Not that they expect any lesser results. They all play to win. They all played hard. But the vibe is very different. Here you walk, airport, 50,000 people are there, all shouting your name. You get sucked into it. And let me make it very clear. IPL is the greatest cricket tournament on this earth. Purely because there are 10 teams, the best we best across 70 games. Period. There is no, if you take, now the immediate comparison World Cup. In World Cup, there are games where you can walk in knowing, okay, this team is not as good as us. There is no chance in IPL that you can walk into a game thinking, surely we'll beat these guys because we are better than them skill-wise. That is what makes this tournament so good and so interesting. It's not even funny. Only when you're part of it, this tournament, you realize there is not one game that you can under-prepare and go under. No chance. Not that you can do it in World Cups, but my point here is there are a couple of games, you have a little bit of wiggle room out in this tournament.
It's not like you can plan a fixture saying this is where we'll pick up points. It never works out.
No chance.
Which brings me to the fact that as we do this, we're just wrapping up, but as we do this conversation, you had a really successful away leg. Chinnaswamy, how does Chinnaswamy become your fortress? Now you're going to play matches in front of your home crowd. How does RCB make it their fortress with the team you've assembled this season? Because that has been the challenge in the last couple of years.
Pressure is a privilege. And you got to use that to your advantage. Not my line, but one of the great tennis players have said it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, the one thing that RCB is capable of is inflicting pressure. Through our skill sets, but also through the crowd cheering and creating the atmosphere that it almost makes it very disarming for the opponent. We got to use that to our advantage. Apart from that, obviously, you get into the technical side of cricket, which is the pitch, understand what the pitch is doing and play the right squad and make sure we have the right intent towards how we want to go about. That is the obvious. But walking into RCB, we have the potential to make it a very daunting place. And that's what we will look to do.
And it's a brilliant place to play cricket. Hige, thank you so much for being so insightful and, just being honest. I think that's really to hear you speak with that level of honesty about even what it's been hard times. I mean, the role that you play, the way that you've transitioned will inspire not just a lot of athletes, but just people like us also who we all go through transitions in life, So thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Big Basket presents the RCB Podcast. Hige, thank you so much for joining us. Something from our digital partners at the Big Basket hamper. I'm sure you've seen what's inside this.
So, no, I got the player, maybe I had the opportunity, 2 games. I know who's got it. The one game, Josh Hazelwood got it. Another game, I think it was, who got it? Another bowler, fast bowler, Yash Dayal, I think. He got it.
So no one shared? Yeah.
Definitely not.
Yeah, this is all yours, Hige.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.